going to be doing a little bit of a different video. We're going to be talking about all of AP micro and macroeconomics, but rather the history of all of it. How did we learn all of this? Where did it come from? How are we using it? And it all starts with Mr. Adam Smith, probably the most famous economist of all time. He writes a book in 1776, The Wealth of Nations, which talks about a lot of different stuff. It basically conceives the first ideas of capitalism and economics. He's talking about the invisible hand that everyone tries to basically pursue their own self-interest. They want to benefit their own self, and that leads to benefiting society. He talks about laissez-faire, minimal government intervention. He talks about divisions of labor where specializations increase productivity. But basically, it's the foundation of economics and the foundation of capitalism as a whole. He briefly talks about supply and demand, and also a lot of different concepts that we learn on later are really important. Then I would say David Ricardo kind of amplifies what Adam Smith does. He writes a book called The Principles of Political Economy and Taxation, where the main things he's talking about is opportunity cost. He figures out opportunity cost and then also comparative advantage. And opportunity cost and comparative advantage are the backbone of almost all international trade. Without comparative advantage, there would be no point to trade internationally. So David Ricardo kind of expands on what Adam Smith already laid and leads to globalization, leads to economics being more prevalent, leads to more international trade overall, and much more. Then we kind of shift gears. Most of AP Econ and what this slideshow is all talking about the free market capitalism, free market economy. But Karl Marx, around 1867, writes a book called Das Kapital, where he talks about a command economy, where a government takes control of the labor, takes control of the market, how that improves everyone's livelihoods, and the basic ideas of it. He talks about planned economies, resource allocations, a completely different style and system of economics. Not only is it completely different from what Adam Smith and David Ricardo basically wrote, but it lays the foundation for economics having different subsections almost. But then, beyond just people and learning more, we also have the Industrial Revolution starting to take place. In the late 1700s and 1800s in the United Kingdom, the Industrial Revolution led to mass productivity increasing, more production, more urbanization, changes in labor markets, and so much more. We saw overall that it improved technological progress. It increased real GDP and so much more, which led to basic economics being more exemplified, being more prevalent, and laying the foundation for our modern capitalist system. Because before, with our agrarian societies, with agrarian societies and serfdom and so many other things like that, we didn't really have all this stuff. Economic growth wasn't really a thing. A lot of the stuff we know in AP Econ wasn't really a thing or wouldn't exist because the basics didn't make sense. Profit motivation wasn't really there. But after the Industrial Revolution, everything changed. That brings us on to the Keynesian economics, which is a bit of a time jump. In the 1920s, we went through the Great Depression, both the United States and most of the world. Before the Great Depression, there was this general economic idea laid down by Adam Smith and David Ricardo, this idea of long-run self-adjustment. That in the long run, if we're in a recession or inflation, the economy is just going to self-adjust and basically become normal if you wait long enough. But then John Maynard Keynes and many others had, I believe Keynes had this quote, what is it? Oh, in the long run, we are all dead. What he's trying to say here is basically long run self adjustment sometimes it's too timely and too costly. So he brings up this idea of fiscal policy. His idea was use fiscal policy to basically make long run self adjustment faster. If we have some government intervention, then that leads to more and more improvement in the economy and back to a normal economy quicker. He's basically creating the foundation for fiscal policy, but also the idea of Keynesian economics, which is more government intervention in the economy. Then we have Milton Friedman, which maybe 20 years after John Maynard Keynes Milton Friedman basically brings up this idea of monetary policy, where we're changing the money supply to basically expand the economy to get out of a recessionary period. But also coming with that is contractionary monetary policy. Before Volcker, we had with Milton Friedman the only expansionary monetary policy. We would expand, but we didn't really have contractionary because we didn't really have any idea how we can contract the money supply. That's where Volcker comes in. As the Federal Reserve chairman in the 80s, he basically brings up this idea of contractionary monetary policy, a way to control inflation, a way to make sure that unemployment and inflation are both controlled. Then finally, we have modern economics. Paul Samuelson is probably the most famous modern economist. He brings up a bunch of new models, new economic concepts, mathematical models, and so much more that we don't even cover in AP Econ. A lot of this stuff is still used to this day. Even though we didn't cover all the main economic topics, these are the main guys you need to know. Adam Smith is basically the foundation of economics, the foundation of capitalism. David Ricardo is the comparative advantage and international trade guy, bringing up more topics than Adam Smith. Karl Marx is the communism guy. We have the Industrial Revolution, the Keynesian economics, which is basically fiscal policy, and then Milton Friedman and Volcker, which are monetary policy. These are the main guys of economics and how we even apply economics to this day.